I hereby, hello? There you go. I hereby call to order the Board of Directors meetings of New Jersey Transit Corporation, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations Incorporated, New Jersey Transit Bus Operations Incorporated, New Jersey Transit Mercer, Inc., and New Jersey Transit Morris, Inc.
Good evening. Please mute your phones and turn your attention to the public safety announcement.
At New Jersey Transit, your safety is our highest priority. Please listen to these safety instructions in case. At New Jersey Transit, your safety is our highest priority. Please listen to these safety instructions in case of an emergency. In an emergency, announcements will be made over the loudspeaker or by a uniformed police officer. The primary exit for this location is the stairwell adjacent to the elevators, which can be located by exiting the boardroom and proceeding through the glass doors. There is a second alternate staircase that can be accessed through the door at the front of this room to the right behind the board dais. New Jersey Transit Police will administer CPR and use the defibrillator located near the elevator if necessary. Fire extinguishers are located in the front and back of this room. Please be guided by the directions of the New Jersey Transit Police and staff. As a reminder, members of the public are not permitted to approach the dais, and should only share board meeting materials with New Jersey Transit staff at the reception desk. Thank you and have a safe day.
Okay. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Justice for all.
I will now take roll call. Board Member Brown?
Here.
Board Member Doshi? Here. Board Member Gordon?
Here.
Board Member Morocco?
Here.
Board Member Medina?
Here.
Board Member Nara will be joining us shortly. Board Member Thomas?
Here.
Board Member Weiss?
Here.
Board Member Caniff?
Here.
Board Member Cruz?
Here.
Vice Chair Carson?
Here.
For the record, Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti is absent and Board Member Medina is Member Weiss is participating remotely, as well as President and CEO Corbett. This is a meeting of the New Jersey Transit Corporation and its affiliates and subsidiaries. Adequate notice has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and NJ Transit's enabling legislation. Notice was filed on July 13, 2023 with the Secretary of State and sent to newspapers of general distribution, posted in the main entrance of New Jersey Transit's headquarters, published on the corporation's website, and sent to each individual, agency, and organization that requested such notice.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the June 14th, 2023 board meetings?
So moved, Caniff. Second, Gordon.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Megan, can you please take roll?
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Our President and CEO Corbett will present the President and CEO's monthly report.
Great. Thank you, and good evening, Vice Chair Carson and members of the board, and good evening to all the members of the public joining us in person and online. We have a very busy agenda tonight, so I'm going to keep my remarks brief. As in previous months, I'll begin with the NJ Transit ridership update. Overall weekday rail ridership remains at approximately 65% of pre-COVID levels, still fluctuating between 55 and 75% plus, depending on the day of the week. On June 21st, we set a new post-COVID maximum, reaching 78% of pre-COVID levels. We also seamlessly moved approximately 13,500 customers to and from MetLife Stadium on July 6th for another major concert, this one for the K-pop group Twice. And overall weekend rail ridership continues to increase and is now up from approximately 80 to 90% of pre-COVID levels to approximately 95% of pre-COVID levels. Overall bus ridership system-wide remains at approximately 85% of pre-COVID levels. Interstate bus ridership into New York is again at approximately 80% of pre-COVID levels. That intrastate bus ridership continues to rise and is now at approximately 90% of pre-COVID levels. Overall light ridership is holding steady at approximately 80% of pre-COVID levels, although we note that the HBLR ridership is moving higher, particularly on weekends and holidays, at approximately 85 to 90% of pre-COVID levels. As more and more riders return to our system, NJ Transit is doing everything in its power to maximize accessibility for all our customers. Towards that end, on June 27th, NJ Transit held its third accessibility forum, designed to educate the public on the many services and features that make our system as accessible and inclusive as possible, and to provide an opportunity for public feedback and have questions answered. The event was well attended online and in person, with nearly 60 participants joining us live and many more watching the post-event YouTube video. Customers who are not able to attend can view the presentation online at njtransit.com/accessibility. We also held our fourth Public Engagement Sustainability Plan webinar on June 20th. This was the first sustainability plan webinar held since the release of the actual draft plan, which was informed by the input from previous three public stakeholder sessions, allowing attendees an opportunity to comment directly on the plan itself. This event attracted robust attendance as well, with 71 registered participants and 43 additional attendees. Members of the public can view this and previous sustainability plan webinars, along with the draft plan, under Sustainability Plan webpage at njtransit.com/sustainability plan. Moving on to our agenda for this evening, we have 15 items up for board consideration. I'll briefly highlight 2 of them. First, later this evening, the board will consider approval of our fiscal year 2024 operating budget, which will allow NJ Transit to maintain and selectively enhance current service levels to meet rising demand. We will also seek board authorization to secure funding for our critical 5-year capital plan, through which NJ Transit is able to ensure system safety and reliability, address systems capacity demands, invest in planned system expansions, and improve and upgrade our infrastructure. Speaking of infrastructure, I'm pleased to note that last month we received notification that NJ Transit was awarded a $47 million federal grant to upgrade our Hilton bus garage in Maplewood. This grant is funded by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, known as the IIJA, and will allow us to make critical infrastructure improvements to make the garage electrification ready to support electric buses on the 13 bus routes serving Newark and Maplewood. This grant award builds on our success in Camden, where NJ Transit's first ever electric buses are now operating on several routes in the greater Camden area, gathering important information and data that will allow us to move forward into the next phase of the program responsibly and reliably. We thank Senator Menendez, Senator Booker, and the New Jersey delegation for their work in helping us secure this important funding. I'll wrap up today by reporting on an important event we held in Newark Penn Station on June 27th, where I was proudly joined by our own NJ Transit board member, Rashonda Brown, ATU New Jersey State Council General Chairman Orlando Riley, and General Chairman and President of Smart TD Local 60, Jerome Johnson, along with a host of our rail, bus, light rail, law enforcement, and customer service frontline personnel, to launch a new campaign intended to promote and encourage kindness and respect for all passengers and employees on our system. We're calling the campaign Ride Kind, and it represents another way we are working to create a safe, comfortable, positive, and respectful environment for everyone who uses our services. This campaign will run system-wide on board vehicles, stations, and terminals, and on NJ Transit's social media platform throughout the remainder of 2023. And with that, Vice Chair Carson, I conclude my remarks and turn the floor back to you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public?
There are 5 in-person speakers, 8 pre-registered telephone speakers, and 5 queued telephone speakers. Speakers, in order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Priority access will be given to pre-registered in-person speakers, followed by any additional in-person speakers. We will then take comments from pre-registered telephone speakers, followed by any additional telephone participants who are queued to speak. Those participating by telephone, if you have not already done so, please press *1 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue to speak. You will hear a brief tone to indicate you have successfully entered the queue. The first speaker is Murray Bowden, followed by Paula Rogovin.
I guess most of you don't know who I am. I've been around here a long time. This hat that says Commissioner came from Jim Simpson, who got me involved with this. So I've been around. I sent an email, I hope you all got it, about the flashing red lights at the railroad crossings. I won't ask because it may be embarrassing. Flashing red lights means stop, then go. Solid red lights means stop. We're looking for something to increase safety. Now, the regulations that you all follow, for the most part, come from the Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices. I got an email today from the chairman of the committee that writes those rules, and he said that the revision is, again, pushed back. And in my opinion, it will never be written in paper again. It's so outdated. It was written 50 years ago, and it doesn't work. I was part of that for 25 years. I was the guy who designed the dotted lines that you find for auxiliary lanes with Scott Wainwright and Gene Hawkins. The 3 of us designed that. So I got a little experience with it. I recommended the ARC tunnel for Rudin Award. They got it, and I've been briefed on all of this stuff. I used to have breakfast with Jim Simpson. Those days are gone. You're the next generation. I didn't expect to be here tonight, but I wanted you to know I'm here because a lot of people have said I can't quit. Because I say things that they can't say because they get fired. I'm 90. I'm failing. My hearing aid went bad today. I didn't want to be here. I had sworn I wouldn't be here today. But you're all new. You don't have the vaguest idea who I am. Google me. Ask. There's people here who know who I am. They back me up. I couldn't do this without knowing who's covering my back. This is a new world. The rules they wrote 50 years ago don't work today. Just look at the diversity sitting right in front of me today. When I started here, it wasn't like that, to say the least. So it's your responsibility to carry this forward. This is not the world of a year ago or 10 years ago. Write the new rules for safety. It's your job. I can't do it anymore. But there are lots and lots of people who've asked me to come up here and say, it's your turn. I'm not going to stay because there isn't anything I can do here that'll influence the rest of the meeting. I want to thank all of those people who, 1 second to thank everybody who helped me. I didn't learn this by myself. I was taught, and there are people here who taught me. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Paula Rogovin, followed by Ken Dolsky.
Good evening. On July 11th, you received a letter from our Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition describing the financial, technical, and political risk New Jersey Transit is facing with its transit grid project. This evening, members of our coalition are going to describe these risks to the board and meeting attendees. I'm starting with the risk of transit not complying with federal and state environmental justice laws. On April 23, 2023, President Biden signed an executive order revitalizing our nation's commitment to environmental justice for all, which increases protections to environmental justice communities. It states, we must advance environmental justice for all, by preventing pollution, addressing climate change and its effects. It also states that all federal agencies, including the awarding, conditioning, or oversight of federal funds, must address disproportionate and adverse human health and environmental effects, including those related to climate change and cumulative impacts of environmental and other burdens on communities with environmental justice concerned. The planned site of the transit grid gas power plant in Kearney has 22 major sources of significant pollution within a radius of 7 miles, 13 of which are within 4 miles, and you can have a copy of the map. Clearly, the cumulative impacts of these environmental burdens on Kearney and nearby communities are significant. Moreover, FTA regulations require that the agency's funding be consistent with the policies and procedures that apply uniformly to both federal financed and other activities of the non-federal entity. But the proposed gas plant contradicts New Jersey's environmental justice law, under which New Jersey must deny any environmental permit application for any new facility that would cause or contribute to adverse cumulative environmental public health stressors that are higher than those borne by other communities. New Jersey's EJ law also states that the environmental justice impact statement analysis shall include an evaluation of the feasibility of the utilization of on-site or off-site renewable energy sources to meet fully or partially the energy demand of the facility. This requirement will be very problematic for New Jersey Transit. First, without a detailed analysis and bid, it will be very difficult to show that such an analysis has taken place. Second, even if New Jersey Transit argues that they don't need an analysis comparable to that done for a gas plant, NJ Transit will still have to be able to prove incorrect the general findings of the Stratogen report, which demonstrates that transit grid renewable energy-based solution is economically and technically feasible. To date, NJT has not been able to prove this point, and it's very unlikely that New Jersey law prevents that when a renewable solution is feasible. GT will have no fallback. Have only clearly building a renewable energy-based power source for completely eliminate this. On September 17th in New York City, there will be a march to end fossil fuels. Thousands will be calling on President Biden to stop fossil fuels and extract. We will continue calling on Governor Murphy to do the same. March will take place in New York City with many rallying first at local NJ stations and Secaucus Junction, trains to Penn Station in New York City. I'd like to work with New Jersey Transit to make sure that there will be adequate trains to and from New York City on Sunday, September 17th. Please let us know with whom we should work.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ken Dolsky, followed by Elizabeth Endoy.
Good evening. I'm Ken Dolsky with Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition. I'm going to speak about the risk of NJT being perceived as being out of step with transportation industry leaders' visions on train power. Over the past few years, our coalition has provided transit with examples of solar storage technologies being planned or used as traction power sources for trains around the world. Countries that are leaders in this technology include Austria, UK, Belgium, Germany, India, and France. Recently, we provided transit with information on the PATCO system in South Jersey that is using solar to power commuter trains. And in Appendix 2 to our letter on risks, we described the program being undertaken by the California High-Speed Rail Authority to power high-speed, like 200-mile-an-hour trains with solar and storage systems. The leading edge in train transportation power is renewable energy with storage, not new fossil fuel plants. No transportation experts are touting gas plants as the way of the future. By building a gas plant in the mid-2020s, transit is promoting an image of an old-school, technically backward, non-innovative, uncaring agency, clearly out of touch with the needs to decarbonize now in order to address the existential threat of our time, climate change. Such an action will be political suicide, yet transit appears ready to take this step. I again draw your attention to the map of nearby highly polluting facilities. Adding to this pollution will not be a positive image for transit. One of transit's favorite defenses against this image is its weak argument that unless a renewable energy technology of the type and scale needed for transit grid has been implemented elsewhere, it cannot be done. When confronted with examples of utility storage systems in California, 5 times the size of that needed for transit grid, it then argued that California is not New Jersey. And just because something works in California doesn't mean it will work in New Jersey. Existing large renewable energy projects, existing uses of solar for traction power, and the plans of the California High-Speed Rail Authority demonstrate that the most significant difference between California and New Jersey is that California transportation authorities are focusing on making renewable energy work to meet its needs, while New Jersey Transit is doing just the opposite. As the world is now clearly in the grip of climate change, whose effects will only worsen each year, it is impossible to understand how transit thinks it will be acceptable to the public and the legislature to contribute to this problem with a new gas plant instead of taking advantage of the opportunity to contribute to a solution with their renewable energy system. Building a renewable energy-based power source for transit grid would completely eliminate this risk. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elizabeth Endoy, followed by Tim Sevener.
Good evening. On February 15, 2023, Governor Murphy issued Executive Order 315, which requires 100% of electricity sold in the state be derived from clean sources of electricity by January 1st, 2035. Effectively, this moved up the date in the 2019 Energy Master Plan from 2050 to 2035 to meet the RCEC goals. Building a new natural gas power plant that under normal circumstances would have a 30 to 50-year lifetime is contrary to that goal. It only creates financial risk, as the plant would have to be abandoned or transitioned to 100% clean energy soon after it was built, within 7 years. The technical risks associated with such a transition are also enormous. Significant additional expenditures would be necessary to replace the gas plant with clean energy resources. RNG, renewable natural gas, is 5 to 10 times the cost of fossil gas, and the costs of green hydrogen have been spiking. Unproven RNG technologies such as hydrogen, biogas, or carbon capture are enormous risks in terms of both fuel availability and ability to meet infrastructure needs, e.g. hydrogen causes pipe embrittlement and is extremely leak prone. Investments in carbon capture and storage or conversion to run the plant on renewable natural gas, biogas, or green hydrogen would introduce further risk and uncertainty related to ongoing fuel costs. It should also be noted that the definition of clean energy is under review by the New Jersey legislature. In addition, efforts by some members of the legislature to require the BPU to establish a system of subsidies for RNG are also under review and are strongly opposed by organizations such as Empower New Jersey. Any plan to transition to clean energy is at risk without final legislative decisions on these technologies and would be highly dependent on the extent of RNG subsidies, if any. Even if one of these RNG technologies were successful at achieving net zero carbon, they would still perpetuate and worsen air quality and environmental racism. See section on EG law risks. In addition, the potential need to transition
Your
to
time
new
has
energy.
expired. Ma'am, your time has expired, ma'am.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tim Sevener, followed by Sally Gellert.
If we could please ask all the speakers to abide by the 3-minute time limit. In addition to the public comments this evening, we do have 17 business items we need to get through before the end of the evening. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tim Sevener, from a board member of the New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers from the Transit Village of Mount Tabor. I apologize for being late. I was going to take the 412 train, and according to Departure Vision, I was at Mount Tabor, and it said Departure Vision said it departed, but I was there. There was no train. This is a major flaw in your system because a lot of people depend on that. I'd like to say that it's commendable that New Jersey Transit will finally upgrade the Bloomfield train station with raised platforms, ADA access, as part of Bloomfield's investment in transit-oriented development. All around, we're seeing transit-oriented development. Mount Tabor's getting a station village. Down the road, Morris Plains is building a major apartments. This is already happening. When are we going to see the transit restored to what it was in 2008, a frequent service? Also, as part of Bloomfield's redo of the station, solar should be included as part of this investment, along with adding at least hourly service on weekends and eastbound service from Dover past 9 a.m. on weekdays. There's students in my town that would go to Montclair State. The last train is 9 a.m. eastbound. Why have the tracks if you don't run the trains? As commuting patterns shift, rail should be enhanced throughout the day, not just focused on past peak commuting hours. This will increase ridership and vital mobility for EJ riders who rely on transit. Feasibility of powering electric rail with solar plus stationary batteries is being shown more and more in projects throughout the world. As already mentioned, we have solar canopies powering PATCO trains in Philadelphia, supplemented by additional solar on bridges. They have the same solar as we do. It's not California, it's Philadelphia. It's actually in New Jersey. Transit stations have the solar canopies in the parking lots powering PATCO trains now. Of course, there's California, India, et cetera, is all investing in solar plus battery renewable electric rail. On the battery side, there are advances in stationary batteries, like lithium-ion batteries. For stationary batteries, this is one of the big advantages of overhead catenary electric rail, which I've been trying to say for some years, and so has NJARP. Because the power comes from overhead, you don't have to have a battery on board the train. The power is almost limitless, whatever goes through that wire. That's why all the high-speed rail is powered by overhead electric. Okay, just one more note about my friend has lithium-ion batteries he is using today.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sally Gellert, followed by the telephone speakers.
Good evening. Sally Gellert, Chairperson of Lackawanna Coalition. There's really nothing to say about your headquarters lease. At a time when we're watching a fiscal cliff approach, instead of conserving assets by renovating a building that you already own, in which you already renovated this room just before the COVID shutdown, you choose to sign a massive lease for the most expensive project of the ones proposed for more space than originally requested. Even worse are the optics of the building owner being a political donor, regardless of whatever the reality is in this pay-to-play state. It would be helpful to see the operating budget reflect the current cost of operating headquarters, including plans for needed renovations over time, so we could compare the lease cost to the current situation. Fiscal year 2024 authorization to secure capital funding. It's nice that you want to get a lot of capital funding, but generally the basic requirement for a grant is a description of the project. There's not a single page with details about what projects you will be looking to complete, at what cost, or on what timeline. We're all aware of New Jersey Transit's propensity for using capital funding to cover operating budget holes, but at least the pretense of a capital plans would be welcome. Fiscal 2024 grant programs. With our membership overlapping with that of ScatterTAC, the Senior Citizens and Disabled Residents Transportation Advisory Committee, we appreciate these grants and the mobility they provide to those who would otherwise have to rely on friends, family, and expensive taxi and medical transportation services for all their mobility. Thank you. Contract amendments. It's disturbing that we so often see contract amendments increasing the agreed upon amount with nowhere the full total of the contract in sight for many a year sometimes. We wonder why the 5% contingency fees built into contracts are not enough to deal with whatever arises. Are the bids unrealistically low? Were they of the appropriate scope when going to bid? We need more info. Bloomfield Station. We appreciate the need to keep facilities in good repair and to increase ADA compliance. System-wide, we hope that cost savings are considered even as durability, quality, and environmental considerations are included in a balanced plan. However, there's no final price tag on this project. What is the final cost? How many stations still need to be made ADA compliant? And what is your proposed schedule for doing so? With what funds? We remain skeptical about the Meadowlands Secaucus Transitway, especially with all the other calls on your funds and the looming fiscal cliff. Is this the right time to tackle such a project? Should the focus be on the current rail and bus connections for the time being? This is particularly difficult as no Phase 1 plan has been released to the public despite promises. What are you buying? What are those cute little arrows on the page? It's time to stop selling and provide details. There's quite reasonable rail service from Secaucus to the Meadowlands for the big events. Let's make sure we have enough money to run basic service frequently throughout the system. Coach USA ending weekend service on routes 24, 31, and 44. From George Kaufer, our member. These routes serve dense urban areas with a high percentage of autoless households. These routes are the only public transportation option serving several neighborhoods, Elizabethport, Dayton, etc. Make sure you fix those, make sure that service continues.
Thank you. Operator, we would now like to open the floor to public comments by telephone participants, beginning with those who pre-registered to speak.
Certainly, and as a reminder, if you have not already done so, please press *1 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue to speak. You will hear a brief tone to indicate you have successfully entered the queue. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes for their public comment. A warning will be provided with 1 minute remaining and again with 15 seconds remaining. At this time, there are 13 speakers in queue, and the next public comment is coming from Andy Weiss. Andy, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening, Board. The Environmental Protection Agency approved the Federal Transit Agency's Environmental Impact Statement for the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail extension to Bergen County. This was approved by the EPA in 2017, 6 years ago. The EPA approved the extension to Bergen County for the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail extension, the Northern Branch Corridor. What is the delay with the Northern Branch Corridor project to extend the Hudson-Bergen Light Rail to Bergen County? What is the delay? NJ Transit got the approval from the EPA in 2017. This is unacceptable. Diane, we have $100 million. This is what I read. We have $100 million for the Hudson Branch, for the Northern Branch Corridor project in the Transportation Trust Fund, and you were the board chair of the TTF. When will this important light rail extension to Bergen County start? When will you release the TTF funds, Diane? Board Member Gordon, what are you doing about this delay? This is important for Bergen County. The EPA approved it in 2017. Another topic, where is our customer advocate? Also, why is the board going to hire only one person for the customer advocate? There's no law preventing you from hiring more people. We need a team of customer advocates, and you know it. You're giving the customer advocate position no support because you don't care about us. You don't care about riders, and it shows. This board is also lazy because you skip 2 board meetings a year. Why is this board going to skip the August 2023 board meeting during a major fiscal crisis? A major crisis. You're going to skip town for 60 days. You do this twice a year. You skip 2 board meetings per year because you don't want to listen to our public comments, and you want to run away from the problem. And you want to run away from the problems that you created. You created these problems, not us. We need new NJ Transit leadership, and the board needs a new chair that cares about NJ Transit riders. I'm sick and tired of you always saying no, 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 but you get a $440 million headquarters. It's always everything. You always find money for yourselves, never for us. We're always austerity cuts for NJ Transit riders. Always. It's always, Diane always says, no, 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 no. I hope this lazy board enjoys their 60 days off during a major fiscal crisis, running away from us, running away from your problems. This board is a nightmare for NJ Transit riders. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Matt Smith. Matt, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening. My name is Matt Smith. I'm the New Jersey Director for Food and Water Watch, testifying on behalf of our 70,000 plus members in the state of New Jersey. And like my friends and colleagues before me, I am also talking about the risks, particularly the financial and political risks that New Jersey Transit faces for its proposed transit grid project and the major gas power plant at the center of it. So New Jersey Transit is facing multiple existential threats to this project, as other speakers have noted. I will summarize just some of these. There is a huge risk of needing to transition a gas plant to 100% clean energy by 2035 or becoming a non-operating stranded asset. There's a risk of inability to obtain funding to achieve this transition, in part due to the greatly reduced need for the project based on PSE&G's grid hardening program. There's a risk of high cost, unproven technology needed to achieve the transition of a gas plant to clean energy. There's the risk of unavailability of gas as a fuel during emergency or disruptions to the pipeline. There's risk of not receiving a DEP air quality permit approval or compliance with federal and New Jersey's environmental justice law. There's risk of being perceived as completely out of step with the transportation industry leaders' vision on the future of train power. Some of these risks, like the additional funding that would be needed, may not materialize until 2026 or later. But any one of these challenges may face New Jersey Transit to abandon its gas power plant plans and restart the procurement process after it would already have invested millions of dollars in the project, in addition to facing additional cost increases. Some of these risks also threaten to exacerbate New Jersey Transit's already tenuous financial situation. I think tenuous financial situation is overly generous. I think it's clear that New Jersey Transit is looking out over a financial cliff. Our coalition has asked New Jersey Transit how it plans to address these financial and other risks related to the Transit Grid project, and the only answer we've gotten is that the bidders will address them. Well, if New Jersey Transit and its bidders have any answers, now would be a good time to share them. The silence from New Jersey Transit regarding these risks is confounding, as the first step for avoiding all of them is the same: a bidder proposal for a power system based on a hybrid renewable energy solar storage system would be the primary means of these risks. So we encourage New Jersey Transit to immediately begin to explore and analyze these risks through a public dialogue. The role of the bidders is to provide estimates of costs and technical financial options, not to navigate the entire macroeconomic and political decisions related to the project. So we welcome the opportunity to discuss these findings with New Jersey Transit, and I thank the board for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Matthew Buckies. Matthew, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Oh, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
well,
your line is
good evening, everyone. I'm just curious. Hold on. Forgive me if I'm. Yeah, I'm so. Okay. There. You know, the board should consider maybe including in their budget, which the good news is does not have fare hikes, since fare hikes have not been raised since when Chris Christie was governor. I'm just curious. I live in New York, and can New York residents, I have autism, get get like a reduced fare for the transit system? And thirdly, you know, the board should consider maybe having, bus routes from the Port Authority bus terminal maybe to the New Jersey Turnpike building for its board meetings. I hope you will consider these remarks. And I'm hoping that there's no fare hikes in this budget, but since it has not been raised when Chris Christie was governor, when Richard Hammer was the chairman of, and I think when Steven Santoro or Dennis Martin were the executive directors. I hope you would consider this. Thank you, and may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Holly Cox. Holly, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Hi, my name is Holly Cox, a 25-year Montville, New Jersey resident, and I'm here because it's a scientific fact that burning fossil fuels is causing the climate crisis. You don't have to look far to see the effects of climate change. Just this month, all we had to do was walk outdoors and immediately notice the dangerous air quality from the Canadian wildfires, or look at the NJ, NY, Vermont, and other northeastern states who had major towns flooded and major roads washed away from torrential flooding. You must start living in the reality of the present and know that it would be negligent and reckless to build any new fossil fuel infrastructure now. NJ Transit faces many financial, technical, and political risks with the current Transit Grid project. I want to address the risk that the NJ DEP fails to approve NJ Transit's air quality permit and environmental justice review. In order for NJ Transit's fossil fuel project to proceed, it will require DEP to approve its air quality permit in a few years, when the problems caused by climate change will be even more obvious. It's scary to think how terrible these extreme weather events will be by then, because they're already increasing at an alarming rate. At this time, the DEP will be under even more pressure to reject new fossil fuel permits and require evaluations of renewable energy alternatives. While it's likely that under today's DEP regulations, NJ Transit's air quality permit may be approved, there are two reasons why you must consider the possibility that these regulations may change by the time you make your application. One, approval of the air permit will take place under a new administration with a new governor and a new DEP commissioner, both of whose actions may not be as friendly towards gas plants as those of Governor Murphy. It is likely that the entire DEP approval process, i.e. the air quality permit process and EJ review, will take until the end of 2026. At this time, if NJ Transit has only received bids for a gas plant and the DEP does not approve your air quality permit application or your EJ application, NJ Transit will have no fallback options and will have to restart the entire process. Two, the NJ Protect Against Climate Threats NJ-PAC program, although it's behind schedule to create regulations to reduce climate impacts and is moving slowly, is required by law to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. During this process, the DEP will be under pressure to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from current sources and even greater pressure to not allow construction of new sources of greenhouse gases, especially when renewable energy alternatives are available and likely cheaper. Therefore, NJ Transit must not only assess the likelihood that DEP regulations will change before it needs an air permit, but must also develop an alternative plan should this happen. Clearly, building a renewable energy-based power source for transit grid would completely eliminate this risk. I thus urge you to look around you at our rapidly changing reality and see that a fossil fuel plant makes no financial or common sense in today's climate and will make even less sense in just a few short years. Please be leaders and pursue a renewable energy project. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from David Pringle. David, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Hi, thank you. Confirming you can hear me?
Yes, David, your line's open. Please feel free to proceed.
Okay, thank you. This is again David Pringle. I'm representing Clean Water Action and Empower New Jersey tonight. Before I respond with my plan remarks, I just wanted to comment. I'm not sure if it was the staffer or the moderator that asked the public to be quiet. So that the board could continue being undemocratic, because after all, we have 17 business items that we, inconvenient public, are keeping you from as you keep us in the dark about those 17 items, given the long sordid history of no dissent or debate or discussion publicly with the board, with the very few exceptions of recent board members like Mr. James, who has left in protest because of the lack of democracy and good decision-making made by the board. I think that's particularly egregious when, the board has refused to review and, in fact, signed off on staff making a $440 million decision that benefits a Murphy donor. When New Jersey Transit is broke and you keep the public at arm's length when it comes to public bidding around your proposed dirty gas plant. Now that is cojones. Now, my plan remarks. My apologies, I confused my dates. New Jersey Transit Board's meeting tonight versus PVSC's board meeting tomorrow, and which one was phone and Zoom. It's a particular bummer because I have some lovely props here for you tonight that you can't see. And as we all know, a picture paints 1,000 words, so I just ask you all to visualize as best you can the two props I have with me, a bag of sand and a spine. In terms of the sand, I respectfully ask and urge the New Jersey Transit Board and staff to get their heads out of it. Get their heads out of the sand. In terms of the spine, I respectfully ask and urge that the New Jersey Transit Board and staff grow one or stiffen the spines they already have. Concerning what? On transit grid, responding to climate change by making it worse. You put trains in floodplains during a storm, yet your solution is to emit more greenhouse gases. And it's not just the legislature that's reviewing clean energy, it's this administration. Executive Order 317 is looking at the future of gas, yet you're pursuing a gas solution while the administration largely is putting a pause on these kinds of things to see what makes sense in the future. Also on fiscal responsibility, wasting hundreds of millions of dollars on New Jersey Transit grid.
15
Number
seconds
two,
remaining.
the office space, at best, you've lost trust. At worst, you're corrupt and or negligent in your failure to adequately review and or disclose what's going on there. Number three, you got $1 billion fiscal cliff going on. You're not leading, you're not speaking up, you're not lobbying, you're not working with us. Number four, you're defunding regularly with, whether it's your decision or the state legislatures and governors' decisions, you are not speaking up against regularly defunding your capital program. Number five, you're not speaking up and against the underfunding of your operating budget, yet your proposed solution, according to the chair of the Transit Board, is to suggest a death spiral of service cuts and or fare hikes.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Corey Hannigan. Corey, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening. My name is Corey Hannigan. I'm the Active Transportation Program Manager at Tri-State Transportation Campaign. TSTC is a nonprofit policy and advocacy organization dedicated to fighting for improved mobility, accessibility, affordability, and sustainability in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Last week, Coach USA announced that they would be suspending service on the 24, 31, and 44 lines which run through the city of Newark. These routes serve one of New Jersey's largest outlet malls and employment centers. As of July 17th, Coach USA has ended nighttime service on weekdays and all service on Sundays. How are closing and opening shift workers expected to get to work? The short notice of the suspension has also left riders with little time to plan alternatives. While NJ Transit has provided alternative routes, some of these bus stops are more than a mile away from the stops they're meant to replace, and there are no maps available showing the new routes relative to the canceled ones. Seniors or riders with limited mobility will have difficulty accessing these bus stops and new lines. TSTC urges NJ Transit to increase service in the areas previously served by Coach USA, particularly in the South Ward, which has historically lacked adequate transit service despite its proximity to major employment hubs like the airport and marine terminal. How will the gaps left by these canceled routes be incorporated into the New Bus Newark redesign, and what is the status of that plan? Coach USA is not alone in eliminating service unexpectedly. Earlier this year, DeCamp Bus Lines, another private bus company, canceled service into New York. We desperately need stable funding for public transit service if we hope to provide workers and families with a reliable way to move about the region. Over the past 10 years, NJ Transit's lost $10 billion from capital to operating transfers to pursue preventative maintenance measures. This has severely limited the agency's ability to expand service, redesign routes, electrify the bus fleet, and modernize its infrastructure. If this budget crisis continues to be ignored, riders will inevitably be faced with fare hikes and service cuts. With dedicated funding for operations, more of NJ Transit's capital plan could be focused on cost-effective service expansion for riders rather than struggling just to maintain existing service. To this end, TSTC recommends that NJ Transit and NJ DOT partner to pursue low-cost tactical transit projects and pilot bus rapid transit lanes. Ms. Gutierrez Scacchetti is both the NJ Transit Board Chair and the NJ DOT Commissioner, and now the DVRPC Board Chair as well. But all of the existing BRT proposals in the state have been dormant for over a decade. Implementing these low-stakes tactical transit projects would deliver new high-quality transit quickly and inexpensively, increasing roadway capacity and transit service without requiring additional lane mileage or buses and drivers. But this can only be maintained long-term with dedicated funding. Governor Murphy and the state legislature must act now to find a source for dedicated funding to sustain NJ Transit into the future. The operating budget you're voting on tonight utilizes the remaining COVID federal relief dollars and only reduces the Clean Energy Fund raised by $12 million and capital preventative maintenance by $28 million. By 2025, the agency is going to be in a $119 million deficit, and by year 26, the whole will amount to nearly $1 billion. NJ Transit is one of the largest transit agencies in the nation without a state-dedicated funding source, and the agency is now racing towards a fiscal cliff. We urge you to join New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Illinois, and California in providing a dedicated state funding source for operations. Thank you for your time. We look forward to your continued work ahead.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Adam Reich. Adam, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening. On the action items, first with Metro Park Station, the development, please ensure that you work with stakeholders, including the DOT and the developer, to ensure that sidewalks are constructed along Route 27 to areas north of the station so that its residents and those accessing it don't have to walk unsafely on the shoulder of Route 27. Also ensure that development is done in a way that doesn't impede straightening the northeast corridor in that section or adding island platforms to allow express trains to more efficiently serve the station. With the rule amendments related to the procedure for banning riders, just concerned about what happens if there's not a notice of determination timely served. And also, if a rider prevails, there doesn't seem to be any remedy. The concern is what happens if you initiate these proceedings and you falsely accuse a rider and it comes out during these proceedings. Shouldn't there be a remedy, at least, reasonable attorney's fees in such an instance? I don't see that from what I can tell looking at the rule. Tonight, though, I want to focus the crux of my comments on the July 3rd service outage on the Northeast Corridor. I commute to and from Trenton from Middlesex County. I got to the station at 5:20 that evening. I did not get a train home from Trenton until 10:40 p.m. Meanwhile, in the interim, Amtrak service in both directions began at about 6:11 p.m. There were 2 New Jersey Transit train sets from the New York direction that entered the station around 6:40 but did not return any time until 10:46. In the meantime, service out of New York Penn proper resumed at 7:30. There was no communication from the social media team or customer service in general, even when I asked, hey, with departure vision, does this mean trains are canceled now until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock? If you're going to ask riders to use alternate service, you have to give them some sense of the minimum length of time for a delay. If we know a delay is going to be 90 minutes or more, it makes the calculation different from just saying, 15 minutes, I'll wait it out. With the alternate backup contingency campaign, you've had representatives at stations in New York and North Jersey. Can you please send somebody down to Trenton? Your bus networks do not connect Mercer and Middlesex particularly well, so it would be imperative to have customer service staff there to advise riders and hear our feedback on how you can improve alternate service in disruptions like this, and perhaps provide for stub service between, say, Trenton and New Brunswick when there's an outage. Also, I think it's critical that you have a ridership forum, one in which the president and CEO attends. Mr. Corbett, I know you've attended ferry namings, you've attended industry events. I would ask you to just take a few hours out of your calendar and spend it at a forum listening to riders and provide them with a reasonable comment period of 5 minutes or more. It's not fair to ask riders for courtesy, but then not make yourself available when there's something significant like an outage like this. So I would ask also if there could be a follow-up. Board Member Nara was kind enough to ask the manager to reach out to me about my concerns about the ABC campaign and what it means for reverse peak riders at the June 30th Operations and Customer Service Committee meeting. I have not heard from management since. Board Member Gordon, Board Member Nara, somebody on board tonight, can you just acknowledge in your comment period whether you can at least ask staff for me to follow up on that, especially given the 5.5 hours it took me to get out of Trenton on July 3rd, and about a report I had given about a wire issue on that morning that happened to be where they were working at 11:30 p.m. that night. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Matthew Walsh. Matthew, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Thank you, for, Board of Directors, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Matthew Walsh, a longtime member of New Jersey Association of Railroad Passengers. My primary interest right now is regarding the Meadowlands Transitway project. I feel this project would only make sense, first of all, if it's integrated into a larger light rail transit network. Light rail transit, not busway, not bus rapid transit, light rail. And it takes place in the Meadowlands, okay? So basically, to have an isolated system going from Secaucus Junction to the Meadowlands Station and the shopping centers there does not make sense. However, if it's part of a cohesive network, and they can have an intersection in the Meadowlands in Kearney along the Greenway between Montclair and Jersey City waterfront, that would make a lot of sense, a number of levels. Governor Murphy originally said he wanted to have rails and trails on the Morristown to Jersey City waterfront right away. Then he backed off during the state of the state. Well, we need both. We need rails and trails. This state is too densely populated. Trails only will not do it. We can have both. We need a modern public transportation network, integrating our light rail networks, our systems, in Newark to the waterfront. And cars aren't going to do it either. Right now, we have a population boom going on in Kearney, North Newark, and Arlington. Look around. You want to see the residential construction going on there. Are people going to want to drive 8 miles on a bike in February? We need to have both. That's transportation on the cheap. I will support the Meadowlands Transitway if it's integrated into a larger light rail system originating in Montclair, New Jersey City, connecting both the North Light Rail Line and the Hudson River Light Rail Transit. Then, on top of that, we can have volume purchase of compatible equipment. The same equipment used on HBLRT and the city subway can be integrated into a potentially cohesive system. We are the most densely populated state in the nation. Light rail, we cannot just survive on trails. All right, that's it. We need an integrative public transit system. And also, secondly, NJDOT recently had 2 lines that were potential lines for light rail transit. One is the former Rahway Valley line between Summit and Cranford, Roselle, and another one between Cranford and Elizabeth. Now that's trails only. Densely populated, some of the most densely populated areas in the world, east of Hong Kong. Or I should say west of Hong Kong. Sorry, a little confused there. We can have both. Light rail transit, trails do not equal public transit. We can have both, but we can't have one or the other. You have to have an integrative public transit network, and we need it in this state, the most densely populated state in the nation. There's no reason to get around that. My second comment involves Hoboken. There's a major development there going on by New Jersey Transit. I hope that New Jersey Transit decides to put more trains in, restore and increase the amount of trains originating on the northeast.
The next public comment is coming from Richard Grant. Richard, your line is live and your time will begin now.
NJ Transit's disinterest in sustainability may have first been revealed when nothing changed after December 1992, when a nor'easter storm's hurricane-force wind struck New Jersey. I was one of many commuters left to mill in front of the Hoboken Terminal's doors, the water quickly rising above our ankles. The Meadowlands tracks flooded, and my cousin was trapped with others in a Pascack Valley train for hours that evening. Closer to now, in 2011, Hurricane Irene washed out rail lines and roadways. This happening after NJ Transit awarded a study to determine the potential risk of weather-related events and impacts on its rails, structures, buildings, trains, light rails, and buses to facilitate planning over 5, 10, 20, and 50-year horizons. But before the June 2012 report providing strategies for NJ Transit to consider in developing capital and operating budget actions to avoid current and future risk and impacts. Closer to now, in 2012, Hurricane Sandy, as the headline said, wreaked havoc with NJ Transit. Closer to now, in 2021, Hurricane Ida's flash floods caused a train to get stuck at a Bound Brook floodgate and stranded 200 riders on a northeast corridor line train for almost 12 hours. Climate change is now making flooding worse, wildfire seasons longer, and heat more extreme, defined as 2 to 3 consecutive days of high heat and humidity with temperatures above 90 degrees. Among many things, that report stated increased temperatures, the number of days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit for the category of rails will likely result in thermal expansion and buckling of the rails. Heat will also damage electrical equipment, switches, gates, signals, increased potential for sagging and snapping of catenary lines, and increasing the opportunity for widespread electrical utility brownouts and outages associated with grid damage. There is no evidence that the 2012 report has been read or considered or its strategies to any extent implemented, or that sustainability plan or not, its content will be updated or supplanted. What is it like to not be a small child and yet be constantly surprised? The board still views its primary role as providing a gateway to such economic development projects as a greenhouse gas emitting power plant and station renovations. Furthering the interest of elected officials, construction companies, and union locals disproportionately over that of riders, taxpayers, and voters. If you don't believe me,
15 seconds remaining.
ask the customer advocate, but you'll have a long wait for an answer.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Doug O'Malley. Doug, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Doug O'Malley, Director of Environment New Jersey, representing more than 80,000 citizen members and activists across the state. I just wanted to reiterate what the board has already heard from members of Don't Gas the Meadowlands. Governor Murphy and NJT need to act on the findings of the strategy study, which demonstrates that a renewable energy-based hybrid microgrid solution not only works and is technically feasible, but is also more cost-effective. So NJT needs the RFP. It needs to ensure that a solution like renewable energy-based hybrid microgrid can work and should not adopt a process a fossil fuel solution. Really, the question, of course, around this project and more broadly is reliability. And the reliability the board needs to be focused on is what strap hangers are asking for tonight, which is, will my bus or train show up? Budget season's over, but the FY24 budget is in front of the Energy Transit Board tonight. This budget season and this budget only starting because the New Jersey Transit traditional solution of raising fares and cutting service that will lock us into a death spiral will not help us to get out of this current fiscal. So this year's budget is fine. Next year's budget is $120 million. The year after that is $900 million. Let's not wait until the crisis is upon us. And let's be clear, let's not balance this budget on the backs of riders because we cannot do that. Remember, off-peak fares never returned from 2010. There's no fair fare program like MTA has. So we need to be able to focus on long-term solutions that include dedicated funding like every other major transit agency in America. I also just want to point across the river in Hudson, across the Hudson in New York, MTA just had a 5% fare hike voted on today. But more importantly, Governor Hochul, through the New York budget, came in and said, we are going to close this budget gap so that we are limiting the impact on riders. It included a variety of one-time payments to ensure that New York City MTA riders were not facing the worst of the fiscal cliff. We have not seen that same leadership from Trenton. And really, this is the opportunity for Murphy and the legislature not to wait budget season, start the conversation now to come up with dedicated funding so we're not leaving strap hangers waiting at the rail or bus station. I also want to be clear, there's not going to be a white knight getting in from the Fed. There's not going to be a federal bailout coming. We need to solve the solution closer to home. And use the excuse of congestion pricing for raising fares. MTA is working to provide dedicated funding. We need Governor to work to provide dedicated funding for here for New Jersey Transit, not Quebec from across the Hudson.
15 seconds.
All options need to be on the table, including re-examining all current properties owned or leased by NJT, including the recently signed lease for NJT headquarters. We should not balance this budget that is coming up on the backs of strap hangers. We can't a crisis through efficiencies. We need increased dedicated funding and increased state funding, including funding the New Jersey Turnpike. Thank you. And please, not just to vote on tonight's budget, but to start work today on next year's budget.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Sam DeFalco. Sam, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening. My name is Sam DeFalco, and I'm an organizer with the group Food and Water Watch. Also speaking to some of the risks of the transit grid project that were outlined in a letter sent to the board last week. And specifically, I'm going to talk about a risk that we've raised at these board meetings numerous times in the past few years. And this is a risk that comes from FEMA itself. FEMA has advised entities and agencies planning to use natural gas or really build any sort of backup resiliency power to not use natural gas or fracked gas, any gas that is piped into a facility, because unlike a power system that something like solar and storage, which is stored on site, or even other fuels which are stored on site in tanks. Gas is going to be piped in from a local utility, and these supplies are not risk-proof if there is a disaster, like we experienced with Superstorm Sandy, or other disasters that could cut power to the grid, could also interrupt gas supplies. And in addition to that, natural gas services often shut down prior to a storm event to reduce the risk of fires and explosions. And because of these risks, FEMA recommends that natural gas or frac gas should not be used as a fuel for providing emergency power unless the facility can confirm that the service will not be interrupted, which is sort of impossible to do. And since the prime goal of the Transit Grid project is to provide power to its trains during such an emergency, it's really not a great idea to be moving ahead with any kind of gas-based plant. Of course, we made it clear that we support a renewable energy-based power source for Transit Grid, but it's not just, of course, for environmental and climate and public health reasons, but actually is going to be a significantly more resilient and less risky option for New Jersey Transit. So thank you. I know that we've been very open about our willingness to meet with the board to discuss any of these matters. So once you have a chance to read the full letter, we'd definitely encourage you to reach out and find the time to talk with us further. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Tanisha Garner. Tanisha, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, my name is Tanisha Garner, and I live in the city of Newark, and I'm also the member of Tri-State Transportation Campaign's Rider Group. I know that you are aware of Coach USA is suspending all services on weeknights and Sundays for the number 24, 31, and the 41. These are vital lines that service our community. Many riders from the South Ward has rallied together to talk about the changes that will affect them. Who would pick up these lines? This is similar to what happened with DCamp shut down when they shut down their commuter services past April. More private companies are shutting down and reducing service. And why? Because transportation isn't being fully funded the way that it should be. We need dedicated and stable funding for public transportation so transit-dependent riders can have the freedom of mobility. New Jersey Transit is running out of money, and service cuts and fare hikes could devastate riders. Please fully fund New Jersey Transit to help the impact that our cities in New Jersey are facing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Leon Fontanelli. Leon, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Thank you very much. My concern is the Transit Grid project. When combined with battery storage and emergency use only gas turbines, solar energy will be enough to fill New Jersey Transit's need for power in the event of severe weather and could fill that energy need for 2 weeks. I live in Hopewell Township, New Jersey. Our home is less than half a mile from the Delaware River. This past Saturday night, 5 people lost their lives due to flooding about a mile from where we live in Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania. The 4 inches of rain that fell in 2 hours was enough to sweep their vehicles into the stream in which they drowned. Unquestionably, this flash flood was due to global traumatic climate change. Climate change is something we all need to take very seriously. Members of this board have the responsibility to do your part in staving off the worst of climate change for the good of our children and for the good of our grandchildren. You do not have the luxury of playing around with any plans for a CO-emitting fossil fuel plant. Literally, the future is in your hands. Please heed the warning. Act now in favor of clean energy while the opportunity is present. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And as a reminder, anyone who has not done so already and may wish to make a public comment today, you may press *1 on your telephone keypad now to join the queue to make a public comment. The next public comment is coming from Rachel Davis. Rachel, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Rachel. Your line is open and you may begin at any time.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rachel Dawn Davis. I'm speaking on behalf of the spiritual ecology nonprofit Water Spirit and our thousands of members throughout the state, country, and world, as well as the Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition, again highlighting a risk of inability to obtain funding to achieve the transition to 100% clean energy, which is obviously required by Governor Murphy's Executive Order 315. We hope you can see the opportunity for leadership that, again, New Jersey Transit has before it to opt for 100% clean energy, really linking healthy transit to recreation on the water, as has been discussed earlier, addressing poverty, housing, and environmental quality. Given the inflationary increases in costs over the past 9 years since the first cost estimates for Transit Grid, New Jersey Transit would be really glad to be fully funded by the Federal Transit Administration and New Jersey grant money. Frankly, in order to further fund its transition to clean energy, New Jersey Transit will have to request more funding from state and federal sources. As has been mentioned specifically by Doug, that's not a great route to depend upon. And such an effort will face three significant obstacles, again, as is shared in this letter. The PSENG Energy Strong program, which raised 29 substations well above flood level, therefore sort of sandy-proofing the situation, eliminates the need for Transit Grid in the first place. When asked about this at the April 28th meeting, New Jersey Transit actually still did not accept this premise, but would not explain why. Instead, New Jersey Transit said PSENG's project complemented Transit Grid, but did not clarify the statement either. If New Jersey Transit wants to convince the public and legislature that Transit Grid is still needed despite the Energy Strong program, they will need to produce hard facts, which are not in evidence right now. Number two, New Jersey Transit is expected to incur extremely serious funding shortfalls again, as Doug mentioned, in the order of $900 million in the next few years, making it very hard to argue that any additional funds be used to transition Transit Grid rather than maintain normal operations. Three, New Jersey Transit is currently planning to move to more expensive office space, as was mentioned by Sally earlier, increasing its annual operating costs. This is questionable. It appears to be by choice, not necessity. And again, it's just very hard, as this letter states, to see how New Jersey Transit could possibly obtain additional funding for Transit Grid under these circumstances. If New Jersey Transit is not able to fund such a transition, it will likely be required to shut down a dirty gas plant anyway, with no possibility of providing a clean renewable energy alternative, again, which is required by the Executive Order 315. Clearly, building a renewable energy-based power source for Transit Grid at the outset, preventing any need for any gas, avoiding the need to transition to clean energy in the first place, would completely eliminate this risk. Thank you, and I just echo a request to respond to this as soon as possible, and I thank you all for your service and for your time.
Thank you. And there are no further participants in queue to make a public comment this evening.
Thank you, public speakers. Are there any board member comments? Board Member Gordon?
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to thank everyone who participated tonight for your comments. I'd like to just respond to two speakers. First, Mr. Sevener. I'd like to endorse his proposal that transit try to take greater advantage of developing renewable energy on its property. I believe that as we're looking for alternative sources of revenue, that developing solar projects on a grid scale at some of our properties, I think is a real possibility. I recently had a meeting with a solar company that had particular interest in two major sites that the transit owns, the Metro Park site and the Hamilton station. The company identified those two stations as offering a lot of opportunity for grid scale solar, which would generate some income for transit. And I would encourage staff to, consider that strategy. Secondly, and I'd like the minutes to show this, that I'm actually in agreement with Mr. Weiss on something. He mentioned the Hudson Bergen Light Rail project. I do think this needs to be a greater priority of New Jersey Transit. The residents of Eastern Bergen County have very limited transit options. And I do believe that a light rail system extended to Englewood would provide a means of getting people to ferries in Weehawken, which could provide an alternative way of getting across the Hudson in case something did happen to the tunnels. And so I would hope that we consider making Hudson Bergen Light Rail a greater priority than it has been recently. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, Board Member Nara?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to address specifically comments made by Ms. Garner and Corey Hannigan, Tanisha Garner. They both spoke about Coach USA suspension of weeknight and weekday services on certain lines in Newark. And I would like to say that NJ Transit and staff were incredible in reacting to what happened with the decamp suspensions. And, you know, I'm sure that if we sit down, I can't promise, and I don't think anyone of us here can promise with any certainty that there's going to be full replacement service. But I will say that I was so impressed with the administration staff with how they understood the effects of the decamp suspension. And so I'm certain that if we sit down and talk about this, there's maybe something that we can do, because I am acutely aware, just like I think everyone on this board is, about how important it is to have safe, reliable, and continuous service in all our communities, but certainly in our very heavily populated communities that rely on this transport. So I'm sure that I'm going to ask staff if they can give us some updates on what plans might be in the works, and maybe see if we can brainstorm as to how we can help the community there. And and then as to Adam Reich, he did specifically mention an issue that had come up in our operations and customer service meeting, and I'd asked staff to reach out to him to address the ABC campaign, and especially how that affected certain areas of the Northeast Corridor. And if that hasn't happened, I guess I'll ask staff to maybe touch base with me and see what we can do to address the specific concerns that Mr. Reich had. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional board member comments? Okay.
Suzanne Mack will present the advisory committee report.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Carson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. It's always when you call in, it's daunting to hope that you're being heard. So I apologize for asking, but it makes me feel much better. I wanted to thank you for having the North Jersey Advisory Board here tonight. As you know, I was there last month in person, but I rotate with my South Jersey counterpart, Anna Marie Ganella, and it was her report. But tonight, I just wanted to tell you that we always go over the agenda together, so that when either one of us make a presentation to you every month, it is in conjunction with the entire committee, North and South. So I wanted you to know that. And also, I think format-wise, you know that we are meeting quarterly now as a full committee, and so our last actual PAC committee meeting was in April, and we have given you reports since then. So tonight we will be commenting on some of the items on the agenda, but it is my sad honor and duty to make everyone aware that that my vice chair, Ronald Monaco, passed away this week. Ron was a wonderful man. He has been on the Passenger Advisory Committee for over 35 years. He was a resident of Huntington County. He was the chairman of HART, as you know, as one of our TMAs. He worked for the Port Authority, a tireless advocate. He actually wrote the bike policy, which New Jersey Transit has, was written under his tutelage several years ago. And the committees are very, very sad, and we're offering our total support to his family and condolences to his family. I know many times somebody just thanked you for your public service, and I don't know if that's really done enough. We, the advocates in the community and riders, really appreciate the selfless service that you have serving on this board and your commitment to the citizens of New Jersey and the riders. And there was no one better. I don't think there would be any advocate group, no matter how much they disagree, that would say that Ron Monaco was not someone that we could all be proud to work with and known. So we will be, when we have our September PAC meeting, we will be talking about doing some sort of formal recognition for him. And Anna Marie will be at the September meeting to report out to you. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention because his service was remarkable. And anybody who knew him, he had an infectious smile and just a dedication to the transit community and to the rail riders that was unparalleled. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. He would be very proud of me that I would mention to you that at our April 23rd, 2023 meeting, Kevin did present the fiscal 2024 operating budget, which is now over $2.8 billion. And the board was able to make comments on that, and we're very happy to see this being passed tonight. Also, the other item on your agenda tonight is the grant program for local transportation. This is a program, senior citizens and disabled residents, that both committees have been dedicated to. It's such a wonderful program, and it's got a lot of foibles in it because it's hard to fund it. But David Peter Allen, our chair of our senior citizen committee, reported out in June on it, and we just need to keep these programs going, because if there's a thread through your meeting tonight and most of your meetings is we have an obligation to serve our urban communities and our disadvantaged riders, and this program is an epitome of something that New Jersey Transit does with no funding sometimes, but you have a commitment to the citizens of New Jersey, and we thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to just mention was in that vein, on June 22nd, we had our third public forum on accessibility. New Jersey Transit has a commitment to engage and expand exclusion for customers with disabilities, and they do go out to the public and gain input on that. And people's input, just like at this meeting tonight, really does have an impact, because I know you go back, you hear everything that's said, and you work behind the scenes to make sure that everybody's concerns are noted, even though it may not appear that way in the board format. We do know that people come in to speak, they do make an impact on us. I also wanted to mention that rail service to MetLife Stadium has been already offered for 2 concerts, and will be offered again for the Beyonce concerts on the 28th and 30th, as will the English Premier League soccer match between Manchester United and the Arsenal on July 22nd. These are necessary, moving back post-COVID, getting people back to normal and providing transit services. The last thing I really wanted to bring up is the New Jersey Transit Police Department began accepting applications on July 17th to join our police department. The first 2,000 applications will be accepted. And I don't think there would be anyone online or in the audience that would not agree that the New Jersey Transit Police Department is one of the premier transit police agencies in the country. And we not only thank them for their continued dedication to the citizens of New Jersey, but we look forward to bringing them up to a new complement. It's a very sought after position in the state of New Jersey to get on to the New Jersey Transit Police Department, and they've always done a remarkable job throughout the history of New Jersey Transit. I wanted to say one thing about the private carrier issue. Believe it or not, I was on the first committee that was formed in 1979 when transit was formed, and New Jersey Transit would have taken over the private carriers if they could. There was federal legislation that required that New Jersey Transit, kind of like a free enterprise thing, that they not take over private carriers that did not want to be taken over. And so for 4 decades, there has been an active private carrier program. But post-COVID, it's getting very difficult for these private carriers to maintain the level of services and the financial wherewithal, even though they do get subsidies from New Jersey Transit. And so I find that I'm in Hudson, and Hudson has a big private carrier thing, and we were one of the ones impacted by the decline in services when the private carriers go belly up. And it's unfortunate because New Jersey Transit then has to swoop in and provide services when they don't have buses, they don't have equipment, and they don't have drivers. So I do not believe that it is a lack of responsibility or caring on the part of New Jersey Transit. It's just the circumstances that we're in. And I believe that New Jersey Transit, with their private carrier program, which they do support, will try, desperately to provide these services that are vitally needed in these private areas. So I don't know if people sometimes know the history of why we don't have the private carrier program, why we're not providing services in some of these communities, but that was not our choice. That was not the Transit Board choice. That was the way the system was set up, and the private carriers wanted to maintain their services because they were providing a service and there was no reason to be taken over at the time. So I'm hoping that that will be something that we can focus on over the next few years. And I also want to say, I'll close with this, that I'm also totally in agreement. You put together a budget, Kevin's people put together a budget that's fair with no fare increase, which is good because people in New Jersey can't afford to have any more things happen to them post-COVID. But without a long-term solution, we're just going to continue to have this conversation over and over again. So if there's anything that the two committees can do, if there's any assignments, any things you would like us to research or look at or go after in order to help come up with that long-term solution, we are willing and very happy to work with you on that. And with that, Vice Chair, I would just like to thank you all for your service. And again, think about Ron Monaco if you get a chance over the weekend, and think about what a wonderful man he was. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. David Peter Allen will present the Senior Citizen and Disabled Resident Transportation Advisory Committee report.
Thank you. Good evening. I am David Peter Allen, Chair of the Senior Citizens and Disabled Residents Transportation Advisory Committee, ScatterTAC. My report to you this evening has been designated as our semi-annual summary report, and it will be longer than our format for other months allows. It is fitting that we have a longer report tonight, though, both because of the momentous events that have happened regarding our committee over the past 7 months, but also because agenda item number 2307-38 is vitally important toward providing mobility for our constituents. Last December, our committee was confronted with proposed regulations under Part 16:78 of the New Jersey Administrative Code that would have suppressed our purview. We negotiated with New Jersey Transit Management at the leadership level, and we succeeded in demonstrating that our broad historic purview is consistent with our enabling statute. As this board authorized, the final regulations were published in the New Jersey Register for public comments, which will be accepted through August 19th. With our committee's historic purview reaffirmed, I promised management that I would submit a statement on our behalf in support of the regulations as currently proposed, and I have done that. While it appears that our historically broad purview will continue, the primary focus of the legislation that established our committee was the Senior Citizens and Disabled Residents Transportation Assistance Program, ScatterTAP, a grant program that supports community mobility programs through counties and other recipients. Tonight's agenda item concerning these and other grants is a complex and comprehensive one, and I have time to mention only a few highlights. The grants from the Casino Revenue Fund have increased 26% over last year. The county systems are under severe stress, and the additional money will certainly help. Grants under Section 5310, a federal program supporting enhanced mobility for seniors and persons with disabilities, have increased only slightly over last year's totals, and inflation is taking its toll. I have sat on panels that allocated vehicles to counties and other recipients under the program, and it was surprising how much the cost of those vehicles has increased. There are other costs to keeping these services going too. Many of us think of New Jersey as a densely populated urban state, but Section 5311, which provides assistance for rural and small urban systems, as well as a rural bus program, is alive and well here in New Jersey. So is NJJARC, a remnant of the Job Access and Reverse Commute program that used to be nationwide. But New Jersey Transit kept it going when it expired in the rest of the country. There are other programs too, and this year's grants will total nearly $71.5 million, an increase of about 13% over last year's total. The transportation providers in our state need that money because our seniors and persons with disabilities need the mobility that it will bring, especially those of us who depend on transit. Like Suzanne Mack a few minutes ago, our committee urges the board to approve item number 2307-38, New Jersey Transit Fiscal Year 2024 Grant Programs, Local Transportation, Senior Citizens, Persons with Disabilities, Rural and Low-Income Residents. Our constituents are facing many challenges to their mobility, and not only as a result of age or physical condition. Transit is under stress essentially everywhere in the nation, and I have learned that through firsthand experience. We at ScatterTAC, along with the traditional advocacy community, are deeply concerned about the plight of all transit riders when the COVID relief money runs out in about 2 years, maybe sooner. If this anticipated grievous loss of federal funds results in deep service cuts and steep fare increases, as Suzanne and some other speakers here tonight have mentioned, our constituents who ride New Jersey Transit's fixed route rail and bus services will be among the hard, as well as our constituents who ride the county systems will be hard hit. The county systems themselves are already under stress, which will be intensified. The riders who will probably be the hardest hit are the ones with disabilities who need Access Link, which is having trouble providing an appropriate level of service even now. We remain prepared to do what we can to help these providers in their efforts to deliver the best service they can, as well as to help our constituents to have as much mobility as possible. Our committee is unique at New Jersey Transit for two important reasons. It is the only organization connected with the agency with a majority of members who depend on transit for all of our mobility. This means that many of our members are also our constituents. And we have developed the expertise to help others whose situations are like our own. The other is that we are the only advisory committee at New Jersey Transit whose meetings are open to the public. We want to know what our constituents need, and we are planning to increase our outreach. We also participated in the June 27th Accessibility Forum. We have been listening to reports from our counties, and we have heard about innovative programs like Hunterdon Link, a local bus system that connects the rural West Jersey County, not just for local riders going from one town to another, but also with Raritan Line trains at Somerville and buses at the Bridgewater Commons Mall. We are looking at microtransit to provide mobility in underserved areas and other potential transportation innovations. Still, if we are going to be as effective as possible, we want to hear from everyone who has suggestions for us. We look forward to seeing the regulations I mentioned earlier approved as currently proposed, as well as having the grant programs approved tonight. In addition, we look forward to again reporting to you 2 months from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Cruz will present the Operations and Customer Service Committee report.
The Operations and Customer Service Committee received an update on trends, analysis, and actions for rail, bus, light rail, and Access Link. The committee also received an update on the cost of service. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Marocco will present the Administration Committee report.
Operating results compared to previous years. Comparable period and fiscal year 23 budget, 12-month farebox revenue compared to pre-COVID, major balance sheet items and federal COVID-19 relief grant drawdown summary. Additional information was provided as part of the agenda materials, including the cost of service key performance indicators, 12-month farebox recovery, history of vacancies, attritions, and hires, ridership and revenue, and a monthly budget to actual comparison for May 2023. Committee also received updates from Human Resources and Equal Employment Opportunity and Affirmative Action. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Board Member Weiss will present the Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee report.
Vice Chair Carson, I'm having trouble loading the script and agenda items for tonight. So Megan, I'm not sure if there's an alternative.
I could read it for you.
Thank you.
The Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee discussed the board items for the fiscal year 2024 authorization to secure capital funding, NJ Transit fiscal year 2024 grants program, local transportation for senior citizens, persons with disabilities, rural and low-income residents, NJ Transit Resilience Program, Rail Operations Center Unit Substation Construction Contract Amendment to increase funding, design and construction support services for rehabilitation and accessibility enhancement at Bloomfield Station, North Bergen Park and Ride West Side Avenue Lot Parking Extension Plan Construction Contract, NJ Transit Resilience Program Bayhead Substation Construction Management Services Contract Amendment to increase funding, Secaucus Meadowlands Transitway Project Concept and Design Services Phase 2 Full Design. That concludes my report.
Board Member Nara will present the Safety Committee report.
The Safety Committee was provided an update by the Office of System Safety on key safety performance metrics for rail, light rail, bus, access link, and construction safety. The Safety Committee was also made aware that safety, education, and community outreach programs were conducted and made 79 presentations at 58 schools throughout the northern and southern regions of New Jersey to approximately 3,746 students. That concludes my report.
Senior Vice President, Chief Legal Officer, and General Counsel Wilton will present the action items.
Thank you, Vice Chair. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jacqueline Stanford, Acting Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer, to present Board Item 2307-36.
Thank you, Brian. We are presenting for approval item number 2307-36, fiscal year 2024 operating budget. Authorization is requested to adopt the fiscal year 2024 operating budget in the amount of $2.8686 billion. We ask for your approval for item number 2307-36.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 2307-36? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Megan, take roll, please.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Marocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Caniff?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Richard Schaefer, Acting Senior Vice President, Capital Programs, to present Board Item 2307-37.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval Item 2307-37, Fiscal Year 2024 Authorization to Secure Capital Funding. Authorization is requested to take whatever actions are necessary to seek and secure the funds envisioned by this program of projects. Authorization is also requested to transfer funding sources and amounts among program projects as circumstances require in compliance with the terms and conditions of the grants and other funding sources. Authorization is also requested to make application, execute contracts or agreements, and take whatever other actions are necessary to seek and secure funds consistent with the basic intent of this program, which may become available subsequent to its adoption. We ask for your approval of item 2307-37.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 2307-37?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second, Medina.
Any discussion? Okay, Megan, can we take roll?
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan? Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried. For the record, Board Member Nara is recused from the next item and will not comment or vote on the item.
Thank you once again. At this time, I will call on Acting Senior Vice President Richard Schaefer to present item 237-38.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2307-38, NJ Transit Fiscal Year 2024 Grant Programs, Local Transportation for Senior Citizens, Persons with Disabilities, Rural and Low-Income Residents. Authorization is requested to execute, extend, or modify all agreements and contracts and to take all other steps necessary to implement the FY 2024 grants programs as set forth in the board item. We ask for your approval of item 2307-38.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 2307-38? May I have a second? Any discussion? Megan, will you take roll, please?
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan? Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried. Oh, for the record, Board Member Medina is recused from the next item and will not comment or vote on the item.
Thank you. We'll continue with Acting Senior Vice President Richard Schaefer to present Board Item 2307-39.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2307-39, NJ Transit Resilience Program, Rail Operations Center Unit Substation, Construction Contract Amendment to increase funding. Authorization is requested to increase the previous authorization to NJ Transit contract with Northeast Remsco Construction of $9,825,162.00 by an up to and additional amount as discussed in executive session, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of 2307-39.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 2307-39? May I have a second? Any discussion? Megan, take roll.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
That was no? Okay. Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Maroko? Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan? Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, we'll continue to ask Acting Vice President Rich Schaefer to present on 2307-40. However, there is a recusal. Sorry.
For the record, Board Member Medina is recused from this next item and will not comment or vote on the item.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2307-40, Design and Construction Support Services for Rehabilitation and Accessibility Enhancement at Bloomfield Station. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract with Stantec to provide design and construction support services for the rehabilitation and accessibility enhancement at Bloomfield Station in the amount of $4,737,842.02 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2307-40.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 2307-40? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, Megan can take roll, please.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko? Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Koenig? Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, once again, ask Senior Vice President Rich Schaefer to present 2307-41.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2307-41, Elcor Hoboken Connect Consultant Services Contract Award for redevelopment at Hoboken Terminal and Yard Complex. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract with STV Incorporated of New York, New York for consultant services for the Elcor Hoboken Connect project for a price not to exceed $1,631,718.84, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of 2307-41.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-41? May I have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, Megan, take roll.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Koenig? Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Once again, I'll ask Acting Senior Vice President Rich Schaefer to present on item 237-42.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2307-42, North Bergen Park and Ride West Side Avenue Lot Parking Extension Plan Construction Contract. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract with Hutton Construction, LLC of Cedar Grove, New Jersey, for the construction contract of the North Bergen Park and Ride West Side Avenue Lot Parking Extension Plan in the amount not to exceed $1,253,319.00, plus 5% for contingencies subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2307-42.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-42? May I have a second? Any discussion?
Question. Rich, in the past, we've experienced some vandalism of our buses that have been in storage locations. Will there be security infrastructure in place at these parking lots to protect our assets?
Excellent question. This is actually an extension of an existing park facility at our Meadowlands complex. It is within a fenced area adjacent to the bus garage. It is already a patrolled area and maintained by 24/7 by bus operations.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Koenig? Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. I'll ask Rich Schaefer to continue with board item 2307-43.
We are presenting for approval item 2307-43, NJ Transit Resilience Program, Bayhead Substation Construction Management Services Contract Amendment to increase funding. Authorization is requested to increase the previous contract with TY Lin International of $3,059,350.52 by an additional $874,669.38 for a total cost of $3,934,019.90 plus 5% contingency subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2307-43.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-43? May I have a second? Any discussion? Okay, Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote. Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Koenig? Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And for the last time this evening, I'll ask Rich Schaefer to present on 2307-44.
Last one. We are presenting for approval item 2307-44, Secaucus Meadowlands Transitway Project, Concept and Design Services, Phase 2, Full Design. Authorization is requested to extend the contract with HNTB into the FIFA Phase 2 for full design and engineering for an amount not to exceed $34,952,784.55 plus 5% for contingencies subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2307-44.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-44? May I have a second? Any discussion? Yes.
There was, Rich, there was a question or a point raised by the one of the speakers today about integrating the transit way into something bigger. There was a concern that it was going to be kind of an isolated project. Is there any merit to the idea of integrating this project into the bigger network?
Excellent question again. Yes. We are looking at phase 1, which will connect the Meadowlands Sports and Entertainment Complex to our Secaucus transfer to meet the 2026 goal. Beyond that, we are looking to come back to the board at a future date to authorize design of concept and advancement to NEPA for expansion of the system that would extend it and interconnect it to our other system and create the connected loop that was discussed before. That was an excellent idea.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Megan, can you take roll, please?
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Marocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kena?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. At this time, I will call on myself to present board item 2307-45. Should I disguise my voice or something? I'm recommending for approval item 2307-45, selection of pre-qualified outside counsel. Authorization is requested to employ and retain any of the following pre-qualified law firms to represent New Jersey Transit in legal matters beginning on July 30th, 2023, for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year option periods after July 30th, 2026. We ask for your approval of item 2307-45.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-45? May I have a second? Any discussion? Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Marocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kena?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Megan. At this time, I'd like to call upon Frank Savino, Acting Auditor General, to present board item 2307-46.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2307-46, CARES Carissa ARPA Integrity Oversight Monitoring Services Contract. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract with RSM US LLP of Edison, New Jersey, to provide integrity monitoring services in an amount not to exceed $1,521,748 plus 5% contingency, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2307-46.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-46? Do I have a second? Any discussion? Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Marocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kena? Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Megan. At this time, I'd like to introduce Christopher Trusillo, Senior Vice President, Chief of Police and Office of Emergency Management, to present board item 2307-47. Chief?
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item number 2307-47, agency-wide all hazards risk assessment and cost-benefit analysis.
Authorization is requested to award a contract to Binera Incorporated at a cost not to exceed $1,250,143.08 plus 5% contingency subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item number 2307-47.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-47? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kena?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to call upon Chief Trusillo to introduce board item 2307-48.
We are presenting for approval item number 2307-48. Regulations, adoption of proposed amended rules NJAC 16:83-1.2 and proposed new rules NJAC 16:83-3.3 through 3.8 and 3.10 related to conduct and safety of the public in the use of New Jersey transit equipment and facilities. Authorization is requested to take all actions necessary to adopt NJAC 16:83, conduct and safety of the public in the use of New Jersey transit equipment and facilities, consistent with this board item and corresponding exhibits. Put the regulation in the appropriate format and take all other actions necessary to effectuate the final adoption and promulgation of these rules. We ask for your approval of item number 2307-48.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-48?
Motion. Okay.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll please.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kena?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to call. At this time, I'd like to call Jacqueline Stanford, Acting Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer, to present board item 2307-49.
We're presenting for approval item 2307-49, Information Technology, award of contract to Oracle America, Inc. for upgrade of Enterprise Business Suite to Fusion Cloud-based system with the addition of grants and contract modules. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract for the upgrade to Oracle Fusion Cloud with Oracle America, Inc. of Redwood Shores, California, in an amount not to exceed $12,399,603.98 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item number 2307-49.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-49? May I have a second? Any discussion? Please take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kena?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to call upon Jacqueline Stanford, Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, to present board item 2307-50.
We are presenting for approval item number 2307-50, Master Development Agreement for Metro Cork Transit-Oriented Development Project. Authorization is requested to take all necessary actions to execute a master development agreement between New Jersey Transit and DOR Woodbridge LLC and all other necessary agreements to implement a mixed-use, multi-phase transit-oriented development project at the station. We ask for your approval of item number 2307-50.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-50? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Member Gordon?
Thank you. We've been reading in the business press about the decline of the office market, certainly in central business districts. I note that there is a significant portion of this proposed project that is going to have office space. I'm just wondering whether we'll have the flexibility to modify that if we see that the office market is just weak in Middlesex County, for example.
Mike Murphy, real.
Don't take that personally, Board Member Nara.
It's all your fault.
Good evening, Mike Murphy, Acting Chief of Real Estate. Yes, and there's also thoughts of towards a medical type facility as well. And particularly with the Northeast Corridor, there's always higher occupancy there, and right at Metro Park as well. But yeah, there is flexibility into what's going to be designed.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we can take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara? Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Once again, I'll ask Jackie Stanford to present on board item 2307-51.
We are presenting for approval item number 2307-51, New Jersey Transit Owned Real Estate Transmittal. Authorization is requested to approve NJ Transit Real Estate Report in Exhibit A and transmit the report to the Governor, the Commissioner of Transportation, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the General Assembly, the Assembly Transportation and Independent Authorities Committee, and the Senate Transportation Committee. We ask for your approval of item number 2307-51.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-51?
Motion.
May I have a second? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we take roll, please.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried. For the record, Board Members Brown and Thomas are recused from the next item and will not comment on the item.
Thank you, Megan. Once again, I'll ask Jackie Stanford to present on board item 2307-52.
We are presenting for approval item 2307-52, personal injury claim of Gabriel Santana. Authorization is requested to settle the claim of Gabriel Santana through his attorney at an amount discussed in executive session. The Attorney General has approved the proposed settlement, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item number 2307-52.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2307-52?
Second, Gainer.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, please take roll, Megan.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kaniff?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Before we adjourn to executive session, I want to let the public know that we will return to adjourn the meeting, but no further business will be conducted. May I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, contract negotiations, the status of pending and anticipated litigation, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege, including but not limited to the personal injury claim of Cesar Arce, the personal injury claim of Suranga Jayathunga, and the personal injury claim of Omash Raghangandan. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion Cruz.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second, Medina.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Medina?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Weiss?
Yes.
Board Member Kaniff?
Yes.
Board Member Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, ready? So I hereby reconvene the open session board meetings. Megan, please take roll.
Roll call. Board Member Gordon. Here. Board Member Maroko. Here. Board Member Medina. Here. Board Member Nara. Board Member Keenan.
Here.
Board Member Cruz.
Here.
Vice Chair Carson.
Here.
Board Member Doshi.
Here. Since there's no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? May I have a second? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? No? All right, motion carried, meeting is adjourned.
All right.